Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. Gonna dive into a new initiative from Bored Ape Yacht Club that came out today. Also about how royalties, how they went to half of 1%, how they've kind of gone to zero now, and how you used to be able to enforce royalties if you had a new contract that blocks certain exchanges, and that seems to be fading as well. I'll dive into all that. First, let's start off with a quick market overview. Volumes were up a small bit versus yesterday, kind of trending into that 10,000 ETH per day area where we've been. Large cap index was down a small bit, I believe half of 1%, had a little bit of strength in the Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem, but weakness in Doodles, Captains, Cool Cats, Clone X. Mid cap index down a fair bit due to weakness in Opepin, Psychedelics Anonymous, and Valhalla. One of the questions I get asked a lot, or people talk about, is how all NFT projects end up going to zero. I wanted to dig a little bit and see if that's actually true. So what I did here is I said, of all the projects that did 100 ETH of volume or more in 2021, how many of them are still around? How many of them are doing any meaningful volume? And the answer is, in 2023, less than 8% of the projects that did more than 100 ETH of volume in 2021, less than 8% of them have done more than 100 ETH of volume thus far this year. About 60% of them have done less than 1 ETH of volume, which effectively means they're gone. So I think the answer is that most projects do end up going to zero, but not all of them. I think the ratio of projects that have stuck around a little bit, it's low, but perhaps a little higher than you expected. In terms of our projects over the past 24 hours, had a fair bit of volume. 4 projects doing more than 10 ETH of volume. Let's have a quick look at some of those bigger trades. Another red peg ringer sold for 50 ETH. A Gazers sold for 13.25 ETH. So the high bid on Gazers is now in the 11s. You had an Anticyclone, that night type, sold for 8 ETH. And then a Memories of Chilin, I believe it's called Poppy Field. The color palette there sold for 5.14. Second thing to talk about is that Bored Ape Yacht Club is releasing an IP tool. Here's the tweet from Bored Ape Yacht Club. They said, made by apes for a club full of builders, coming later this month. They actually didn't give much color on it. That was pretty much all we got from Bored Ape Yacht Club, but there was a video. It was 16 seconds, 16 to 20 seconds, somewhere in that range, where they did go through a lot of the projects using Bored Ape IP that various holders have created over time. Here's a tweet from Garga that did follow up, though. He said, as much as folks in the club have been building with their IP, there hasn't been an easy on-chain way to verify those items or to create an official directory for everything apes and mutants are making. They're working with Sassy Labs or Sassy Labs, something like that. And they're excited to debut that soon. And I think it's coming within a month. Then a few other projects that have used Ape IP popped up. And Garga did retweet those. Here you have one called Storyverse. Here you had another, which seems like a merch project using Ape IP that was also retweeted by Garga. Overall, I think it's pretty interesting. My basic take here is that we know that people feel connected with the projects that they are part of. They want to support others. They want others to know who they are. And simple tools like this, simply connect members of the community. Members of the community want to meet each other. They want to support each other. And they want to be part of that. All it takes is simple tools to do that. So this was a pretty cool initiative from Bored Ape Yacht Club. Very excited to see how it evolves over time. I say here, the more you can do to empower the biggest supporters, the better you are, the better users are. So cool to see that. Third thing to talk about, royalties going towards zero. Not totally towards zero, but I think everyone knows that they went towards half of one. They went basically to half of 1%. A few months ago when OpenSea made that move, went to optional royalties. Now, this kind of really got flagged to me yesterday when I saw that Blend was adding Izuki Elementals. Why did that flag to me? Because Izuki Elementals was one of the projects that was permissioned on Blur, which means that they were enforcing royalties at 5%. They were only being enforced on Blur and OpenSea. And both those projects basically said, if you block the other exchanges, we will enforce your maximum. So I was surprised to see that it was going on to Blend, because when you sell NFTs from the Blend wallet, that's a 0% transaction. Okay, so I'm going to dive a little bit into both of those things. Now, the first thing to know is, as I said, Blur used to say that they were enforcing at half of 1%. Now you can sell from the Blend wallet, and that is a 0% royalty transaction. What you can see here is it kind of, this is the average royalty on Bored Ape Yacht Club. It kind of fluctuated between half of 1% and 1% because it is optional to pay more on Blur. But then when Blend was launched, the 7-day rolling average royalty really cratered because pretty much all the traders were just moving NFTs to the Blend wallet, selling there and doing it at 0%. So that really has had a pretty big impact just on that little bit of royalty that was left. I think that overall, this was a pretty surprising move just because Blur made no announcement. Like, we don't know, was this a tech issue where they just haven't figured out how to enforce royalties? Is this something that they're trying to do deliberately and moving to zero NFTs or moving royalties to zero without telling anyone? There was zero communication from the team. We still really have no idea. In the most recent tweet I saw from Pac-Man, he said, we enforce minimum royalties. And this was on Elementals where they don't enforce minimum royalties from the Blend wallet. So there's a lot of uncertainty here, but I found it generally pretty bad communication, I'd say, from Blur over an issue that impacts traders, it impacts collectors, it impacts projects, just to not even say anything and leave people in the dark, and just let the biggest traders find this out and use it for themselves. But the other thing that happened, and the other thing that I think is kind of pushing things towards zero, is that throughout kind of this entire saga, Blur and OpenSea have said they're only going to enforce royalties if no other exchanges that don't enforce royalties are all blocked. As we know, OpenSea has a protocol called Seaport. And Seaport, basically anybody can use. And LooksRare, who had to be blocked because they aren't enforcing royalties, LooksRare is at 0% royalties. LooksRare found a way to get around the block, where they said, okay, we are going to use Seaport and we're still going to not enforce royalties. We're still going to be at 0%. So Blur said, well, here is LooksRare now charging now charging 0% on all these projects, even Captain's Heavy Metal, the one we've enforced in the past. Unless people block LooksRare, we're not going to enforce either. Now, the only way to block LooksRare is to block Seaport. So you have to block basically everything other than Blur. So now projects basically have two choices. One is to block everything other than Blur, or two is to not have royalties enforced. That's kind of where we are right now. Captain's is one of the projects that has historically had royalties enforced, and this is a Etherscan. You can't really see here, but the most recent trades there are at 0.5% instead of the 3.33% that we saw. So I think as long as Seaport is creating this backdoor method, it does seem like royalties are basically going to zero or 0.5%. If Blur and OpenSea continue to do that, but again, through the Blend wallet, you can go to zero. So, anyways, just a little bit of an evolution on the royalty story that I kind of discovered yesterday. Talked to some people, thought that was kind of interesting. Let's talk about some notable sales. Let's talk about some big sales that happened. The first, this King LoudPunx sold for 30 ETH. What is a King LoudPunx? Well, LoudPunx is an NFT that basically gives you access to all VIP seats, VIP access to all Rolling Loud shows. Rolling Loud, I believe, is a concert promoter organization that creates concerts, a lot of rap concerts all over the world. And if you have this NFT, you get VIP access to all of them. So pretty cool situation there. Now, if you own this King, why is this King special? It looks like here, and this is just from looking at my Twitter, some of the people who are talking about it, says basically you get access to the on-site nightclub and $6,000 of alcohol per event. So pretty punchy benefits there, but 30 ETH, a $55,000 NFT is punchy too. So interesting to see that. Congrats to the buyer, the seller. I believe the buyer was the founder of Pudgy Penguins. I'm like before Luca, the guy who Luca basically took it over from. That's what I believe was the buyer, but I'm not entirely sure. A couple other sales to talk about. This Medusa DeGods. This sold a couple days ago, and I forgot to talk about it yesterday, but it sold for 90 ETH. Massive sale for a DeGod. Since they moved to ETH, this is the second highest sale of all time. If you look at the top four, the number one was that one of one sale that unfortunately got stolen and then sold back to the owner. But all four of the top sales have been Medusa trades. So you can certainly tell what is the grail among the DeGods NFT. In terms of art sales, one of ones, two that I wanted to talk about, both for 2 ETH. It says something when the top sales on Super are 2 ETH. But that's where we are right now. But still, some really interesting stuff to talk about. Pushing Through the Noise by Mighty Moose. This piece sold for 2 ETH. Again, this does not do it justice. You got to see the motion and the animation. Very cool NFT from the artist. The artist has had a couple. So I think this is the highest I could find. So I've only seen one other sale at 2 ETH. A couple other sales, kind of in that 0.5 to 1 ETH range and a little bit higher. But you can get a sense here for the artist's look and feel, kind of what they're trying to do. A little bit about Mighty Moose. Minting and collecting since 2019, super rare V1 minter. I reveal parts of myself as I create, and I aim to build a connection between artist and viewer as we delve into and explore our souls together. Happy exploring. So pretty cool stuff there. Congrats on that. And then this piece sold on Manifold, I believe. Homesick Lover Girl by Lorna Mills sold for 2 ETH. Another one where I think you really want to see the animation. Every now and then I see a sale and dig into the artist and just find that they're totally interesting people with all sorts of interesting background. Lorna Mills is certainly one of them. She's been creating and exhibiting digital work since the early 1990s, back when Netscape was the dominant browser, and it could take an hour to download a 3 megabyte file. Her work is in the collections of the Whitney Museum of American Art, the Sander Collection, Museum of Moving Image, and EQ Bank, and her work was shown in Times Square before any of the current generation of NFT and crypto artists. In an interview, she says, "I want to surprise and confound, as that is an experience I like when viewing other people's work. On occasion, my work is vulgar, but it's due to my sense of the ridiculous." And if you look at her work, there is a lot of crazy stuff there. If you go and see her page, kind of an interesting exploration if you are up for it. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did like it, give us a like. Tell us what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back tomorrow and every weekday with another show. Have a great day.